Dennis Foster. I was born and raised, grew up in the Millette area, which is just south of Aberdeen, Aberdeen being our major retail center. Basically, the reason I got into this is I hunt myself all fall anyway. I have other business concerns, but I take the falls off. And probably the biggest reason is to watch the dogs work. And quite frankly, if I can bring people out here and show them our lifestyle, hunting the way we grew up, and I get to watch my dogs and make a living in the process of doing so, it's a win-win situation. And also on a personal note, there's a lot of quote-unquote game farm type operations where I don't think they portray our heritage quite as well. So literally we hunt out of old Suburbans, we hunt the way I grew up, and I want to relay that flavor to folks, you know, the true South Dakota lifestyle, and I think we succeeded at that. You know, the guys are walking away happy. Personally, I prefer the late season hunts. There's several reasons for that. One, it's a more relaxed atmosphere. Not near as many guys are out here. And quite frankly, the hunting is much better. There's a common misconception. The guys think, oh my God, you know, we're 3-4 weeks into season and a bunch of the birds have been shot off, or opportunities are less. It's actually quite the opposite. The opportunities are much higher. There's several reasons for that. Typically, our row crops are harvested, which condenses the birds into smaller areas. 2, our temperatures are cooling, which is also condensing the birds, slowly getting into heavier cover. And with that, we don't have to take these big, expansive walks. We can pick and choose areas of smaller cover. With that, we're more efficient. If we do have cold weather, we're not in the weather near as much. It's more of a run and gun scenario. And me personally, is when we get the big explosive flushes, and literally it's like being at a concert. You can feel the wing beats as they come up, and to watch somebody's expression when they see that, and me too, it catches me. A lot of times my guys will stand there with a gun and they don't even shoot because they're busy just taking it all in. And to me, that's the biggest rush of it. One of the major reasons you're going to want to have dogs, and not just dogs, hopefully good dogs, is these birds are wild and they're wily, and they have adapted quite literally in my lifetime and become even a little bit tougher to hunt. The big thing is they don't want to fly. Flying is their last option. They want to run. So you need dogs that can track them through the field until we can finally pin them up against different kinds of cover or run them out of cover to pop them up. And then not only that, once we have the bird in the air, once we get it down, we've got to find it. And these birds will tuck under the tiniest little bit of cover. And as a human, we could walk around all day and not have any chance of finding them. Where the dogs will pick them up. It makes it a more ethical hunt. It makes it more enjoyable in the fact that we are getting the birds for our effort. You know, and then just the pure fact of watching a good dog work. Wouldn't believe the amount of hunters I have come up and say, we really don't care if we shoot any birds. If we do, it's great. We just want to watch your dogs work these birds.
We're going to head out on a late season pheasant hunt, getting down towards the end of the year, which frankly is my favorite time of the year. Believe this or not, we've been praying for some cold and some snow. The crops are in. We've got about a foot of snow on the level, drifted deeper in places, obviously, about 15 degrees below zero. So with that, equipment becomes very key to success. These birds are jumpy. We have no room for air. A lot of that is what we personally wear to stay comfortable so we can actually be out there and perform ourselves all day. A couple of simple tips that people overlook, quite frankly, is footwear. Before season started, the folks at Red Wing got a hold of me, asked me what I'd like to have for some boots, and I told them I need something for early season, I need something for late season, but something light. They'd sent me some Vapor Treks, which I wore all through early season, lightly insulated, very light, comfortable, putting on a lot of miles chasing these scattered birds. Now the birds are grouped up tightly due to the cold and snow and the fact that our corn crop is, for the most part, harvested. Now we're quite cold and we're going through a lot of snow. And with that, typically heavy boots are, quite frankly, heavy. They're cumbersome, they're clumsy, and they tend to wear you out. It's hard to get your footing, brace yourself for proper shot stance, so forth. But I tell you, these Ice Trek boots, I am just tickled pink with them. Been wearing them the last several days. And they're a synthetic boot, and they're quite light, but they also maintain their waterproof nature. And one thing that I really like, and I'm not even sure what this gizmo is called, is they're easy to put on, because typically heavy boots, you're lacing and you're doing this, and as we get older, quite frankly, we get a little paunch, and we're about have our tongues hanging out trying to get laced up or unlaced at the end of the day. You simply just slip your foot into things. They go in that simple, and take this device and just twist her and get it to whatever comfort level you like. And quite frankly, it is that simple. Another thing that I found, I've been wearing these Columbia pants for a little more warmth and also protection in this snow as we get to pounding around through it, so it isn't sticking to us and we get in the vehicles and it's melting on us and we end up wet. These are waterproof, but another thing I like is they've got this inner lining that's got elastic, because quite often you'll step through deep snow and you'll go over your boots, it'll sit on your pants, and it'll end up finding its way in there and melting, and you'll have wet feet at the end of the day, even though you do have waterproof boots. You simply pull this elastic lining over the top of them. I mean, that is tight, nothing's getting in there. Pull your pants down and you're good to go. On the flip side, at the end of the day, one of the nicest things is getting out of your heavy clothes and your boots. You simply pull this stuff up and you snap that thing off, pull like that, and you're out of them. It's just that simple. Little things like that go a long way for not only comfort, but your pure enjoyment in the day. And you're gonna find if you're going out there with a better attitude, you're gonna shoot better, you're gonna end up being more successful. So, something to consider, and definitely something you're gonna wanna do. Well, we've just about got everything ready to run outside, throw on some heavy coats, go out in the cold weather, load the dogs up, and actually start hunting. We just talked about what we're putting on our feet. Now, more importantly, we need to talk about what we're putting in our hands, namely our guns, to knock down these late season birds. And there are a couple key things that you're going to want to be aware of. First thing is chokes. I run a modified in most cases, perhaps improved modified. We're going to want tighter patterns because we need to reach out and touch these birds and touch them very firmly at that. These birds are tough, they're wild, they do not like to die. You need to bring them down so they can be picked up quickly by the dog so they're not running off on you, spooking more birds, because these birds are flighty this time of year. They're going to be longer shots. Another thing I should allude to is shoot quickly. Do not dally around. Now with that, I shoot a modified, where a lot of guys shoot an improved modified, and quite frankly, I think I can get by with a little more open choke because of the shells that I shoot, namely the Fiocchi brand of shells, and the nickel-plated shot I feel stays in the column better, so it stays tighter downrange because it isn't deforming like just pure lead does as it's hitting each other and becoming slightly deformed, and it's starting to fly off and scatter around a bit. To start the season, we were shooting 2 3/4 inch shells, very hot shells. Start with number 5s, quickly graduate to 4s. Obviously the nickel-plated stuff, fast shells. Now we're moving into the 3-inch stuff, and it's imperative that you do have quality shells. We're going to shoot the 3-inch golden pheasant variety, and actually shooting 1 3/4 ounces, which is a big payload, and we're tossing that downrange at them at 1,200 feet per second, which is going to hit these birds hard. That being said, these birds can get very rangy. If we need to, we'll actually step up to a turkey load. The golden turkey loads, basically the same shell. We're shooting 1 3/4 ounce, nickel-plated 4s, but these are spitting them out at 13 and 25 feet per second. A bit quicker, it's going to get to them quicker before they do get out of range, and then also before your shot is off where you were actually pulling the trigger, wanting the shot to go. Another thing I should allude to too is if you are a quick shooter, We don't need big leads on these birds with fast shells. Basically put it on their nose, keep swinging, shoot instinctively, you'll do your best. I find the guys ask me, how much do you lead? I don't know. I shoot instinctively, the birds come down. The more you think, the more you're gonna goof up. But the key to the whole story here is shoot quality ammunition, tighten your chokes up, shoot quickly. You're gonna put more birds down. You're gonna have a more enjoyable experience. You're gonna get out of the cold quicker with a full bag.
Hey folks, we're just taking a little break from the action here. Wanted to share a few things about this late season hunting that we're doing. Quite frankly, far too many people avoid it. They feel it's too cold. They feel the birds are terribly spooky, which they can be at times. But quite frankly, today what we're finding in this bird particular held super tight in the cattails. We actually had 3 dogs pointing it, had a heck of a time even getting it up. And the thing that I like most is what you can expect is these big puffy feathered birds. You can see here, you know, look at the tail on that guy. And the spurs is one thing I always look at to tell if it's a mature bird. And this has actually got ivory tips on it. That's sharper than heck. So this is a minimum 2, probably a 3-year-old bird. You know, and this is what you're going to get if you come out here. It's a little bit of work walking, but just go at a steady pace and you can get her done. There's a flush. It was worth coming down this road, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine how many get up and send a dog out there. See, they're not done. Told you. Coming up behind us. Look at them all back there. There's as many or more back there on that edge.
Shoot that bird!
Hey folks, Dennis Foster here. We're wrapping up another successful season at Dakota Pheasant Guide. Got our last bird of the day here. Bella's still pretty excited, which I am as well. I gotta tell you folks, a lot of people aren't taking advantage of these late season hunts. They feel it's too cold, so forth. With the warm weather clothing that we have nowadays, it's really not too bad. Dress properly, get out there, you're moving around quite a bit. You're not gonna be that terribly cold. The biggest benefit is these birds are bunched up tightly. You're gonna get these big, beautiful, fully feathered, colored out birds, mature birds. And quite frankly, we have not seen another hunter in the last 3 days. And you're gonna find that. It's another great opportunity for those of you who wanna hunt public ground, because it's also largely untouched. I guarantee you I could drive around Spink County all afternoon, maybe see one group of hunters on any public land. So get yourself out here, take part in what we're so proud of. Hey folks, we just got done shooting a few birds, getting them cleaned up. And I pulled a couple gizzards, and I get a common question: why do these birds come up to the road in the evening? And quite frankly, what they're doing is they're coming up to get little bits of gravel. And what that does, they get it in their gizzards, and it helps them grind that food down to a finer format before it goes in their digestive tract down to their stomach, making it much more digestible. In particular, corn, that's not the most digestible thing in the world. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open one of these up and show you exactly how it works. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a knife and slice this open and show you the function of it. So I've got it partly open here. As I open it up, this is interesting too. One of these birds, when we cleaned it, I had looked at his crop, and I'm going to try not to spill all this so you can see it. This particular bird, he had a lot of very small weed seeds in him, which are the stuff that's already ground up, and then he also had a bit of corn, if you can see that. And it's already started grinding down that corn. As we move farther through the gizzard down the digestive tract, it's down to just a fine meal type of stuff here, and then that's going to make it much more digestible. Then they'll pass that right on to their digestive tract. And I'll kind of shake some of this out, and I'm even going to rinse this a bit and show you how it does work. So this is the chamber of the gizzard, On the outside, that is just pure muscle. And what that'll do is it'll just sit there basically like a fist, and it'll sit there and it'll grind all that stuff up. So that's how it works in these birds. Another thing too is if you like, and if I had fingernails I could show you, you can take and pull this inner lining just like I did there, pull that apart, and you've got gizzards to eat, just like a chicken gizzard, no different. Prepare them the same, and that's something you can stretch your birds out a little bit further, and it's a nice little appetizer. And a guy sitting around having a few cocktails after the hunt, you can fry some up. So just something to consider when you're cleaning these birds. As fun as it is chasing these birds around, it's equally as enjoyable eating them. And we got kind of a way that we like to do it here. And what we'll do is we'll take the breasts, we'll hammer them out slightly with a meat hammer, soak them in buttermilk overnight, and there's kind of a two-part process to that. One, the hammering breaks up the fibers slightly, and also that buttermilk breaks them up. And as you can see, these were small pieces of breast, and they just end up puffing up when they hit that oil. It further breaks those fibers apart. And what we're doing for breading is we're taking them directly out of the buttermilk, dredging them back and forth in the flour, hitting them in buttermilk again, similar to an egg wash, and then put it in your favorite batter. And for breading, and there's a lot of different things you can do. You can make your own if you're good at that, have any preferences for it. But something very simple, what I'll do is just simply use shore lunch for fish breading. And if you like it a little on the spicier side, you can do, say, half Cajun, half original. We're using fried chicken, which I just got onto here this week, and that's quite good. Another thing I should allude to too is I put some Tony seasoning, which is a Cajun seasoning, a lot of cayenne based, kind of hot stuff. Sprinkled that around in the buttermilk when we soaked it. So it's got kind of a bite, but not real hot, just enough to give it a good hearty flavor. So it's something to consider when you want to cook up your birds.